Shalom, Chavarim. Wow, I have learned so much since the last video that Elohim was able to baruch with me putting out. I have not been able to wait to share all the good news with you guys. It was really incredible because on this last Day of Atonement, I had taken the day off work, and, some people go back and forth on if that's a day to fast or not, but, I agree that it is, and obviously special berekah comes from choosing to fast, more relying on Yahweh throughout the day, and, it's kind of like, I almost see it as you can turn a regular day into Kodosh with him, almost like a Shabbat, by doing that. It gets that closeness with him. And I was baruch with this article, and I'm going to start with this article that I had found, and it was amazing how it all came up. The more we fall in line with Torah, the more berekah we get. And I was talking to my mother about the tzitziot that I was able to just finish making. And, I was kind of putting in my mind, oh, I'm going to start wearing them. And then I was like, well, I have to make sure that everything else is in order. You can't just move too quickly with something so kadosh as wearing the tzitziot. So, before I read this article that I found in that conversation, I was like, well, I'm improving on dressing modestly, and the reason why I say improving is, of course, because I came out of the world. I wasn't just always into Scripture. So, my dress has changed drastically, and the more I learn, the more I want to cover up. And, I was thinking, well, if someone is talking to me and I don't have my head covered, but I'm wearing tzitziot, that's like nevuah, a woman with her hair uncovered. Sha'ul warned against that. And I thought, you know what, I need to dig into this subject. So I came across this article. I'll begin the study with that after, of course, inviting Elohim and asking his berekah on the study. O Yahweh, the Elohim of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, we are so, so very grateful to be able to approach you in this time through Palal, through prayer, and especially Yeshua. Thank you so much for even making it possible for us to be grafted into the family of Yisrael. May we always bring glory and honor to you and make your heart rejoice, for you have made our heart rejoice through this. You are our Father, and we want to honor you most of all. May you write your Torah upon all of our hearts, help it to take root, and help us to receive those special secrets in our time with you, and help us to organize our lives better so that we can have more days where we get to have that closeness with you, because we know that the time is moving so fast and is growing so short upon Adonai Yeshua's return. So may we make the best of this time and dedicate every moment possible to you. May your Geder HaKodesh be thick around this study, not just right now while it's being recorded, but all the future times that it's viewed, so that our understandings are not skewed by any attempts of demons to cause any to misunderstand, but may clarity come through your Ruach HaKodesh and be a berekah upon all of us, as it always is when we get to join in Palal with you. We love you, our Elohim, Yahuwah Echad. Amen. Okay, friends, I'm going to start with this article called The Mitzvah of Covering the Hair. Mitzvah is like one of Yahweh's loving instructions. It's like following out a Torah. The head covering is one of the most cherished pieces of clothing a woman possesses. With it, she fulfills a great mitzvah, min ha-Torah, a biblical mandated commandment, and it bestows on her many exceptional side benefits that emanate from fulfilling a mitzvah that is found on tznuut, which is modesty, the most important characteristic of the Bat Yisrael, daughter of Israel. She demonstrates submission to Hashem's wishes, the name, Yahuwah. When wearing a head covering, a woman conceals this natural source of attraction from the eye of the public, and thereby demonstrates that she is a servant of Hashem. That, above all, is the number one reason to cover our hair, ladies. She places his wish that an ishit ish, a married woman, covers her hair and conceals it from the view of the public, above her own natural desire to look attractive and enhance her appearance by displaying her natural hair. And I'm going to note right there, there are verses that I noticed too that it talks about maidens, virgins, covering their hair. There's even a verse where I remember when, sometimes I'm not that great with the names and lineages. It's not one of my best subjects, but when the maiden got off the camel and she quick covered her hair when she saw her future Ish. I think it was, I'll look it up and I'll put it in the comments. I mean, not the comments, the description down below. I'm sure you probably all already know what I'm talking about, but it'll be good for me to learn too. This helps teach me. She demonstrates the purity of Jewish family life. The head covering symbolizes the Qorin'tiyim of the Jewish family, in which the wife dedicates her life to her Ish, to the near total exclusion of any form of contact with other men. She therefore withholds the chain, the beauty, of her hair from the view of the general public. It is a source of Yirat Shamayim, fear of heaven. And it's interesting because I noticed little differences in spelling. Like from Alan's channel, Alan Horvath, I would have thought of Yirat as Yareh. Like Yareh Yahuwah, fear Yahuwah, not fear, but revere. So the source of revering the Shamayim. When this mitzvah is kept properly and with the correct attitude, it imparts considerable Yarei Shamayim to the person. Men cover their head with a Yarmulki, Kepha, or hat in line with the recommendation of Chazel, our sages. Cover your head so that you shall experience the fear of the Shamayim. If covering just part of the head, as is practiced by men, has such an effect, how much more must covering the complete head have a deep and far-reaching effect of a woman's yarei shamayim. And that was cool too to learn, because, you know, I always wondered, like, why do the Jews wear those little hats on their head? Now we know, if you didn't know already. And, you know, I just also want to add really quickly, since I've been wearing this, it has really helped me when I'm driving. I mean, I used to really struggle with, like, road rage or just impatient driving. I started to get a lot better after out of the book of Yashar, when it talked about Abraham's ruach being tested by the malachim. When Sarai died, you know, they recorded that his ruach was patient in the desire for her burial. Like, he wasn't pushy when he went to go set that up. So that was a huge, like, eye-opener for me. And, like, oh man, if Abraham, you know, we are the seed of Abraham and we are to follow his ways, and then, you know, he's patient over that, and then here I am being impatient about driving? Like, come on, Julia, I think that to myself. So, but this too, like, you know, you can think that, but then, you know, if your mind is occupied with, oh man, I'm running late to work, or the stress, you know, that's another thing that I realized. I was like, wow, that's another way to fulfill Torah, at least for me, is leave on time. If I leave on time, I'm not going to be so stressed out when I'm rushing to work, you know? So following Torah has helped me to organize my time better as well. So this is a wonderful reminder, even when our head is occupied, like, all the Shamayim is watching. You know, we are to, at all times, submit to Yahweh and his desires. It's a way to, Proverbs Mishli 27:11, you know, that was one of my very first verses that I memorized. Be wise, my son or daughter, and make my heart rejoice, so that I may make a reply to the one who taunts me. So this is a way that we can make a reply to the one who taunts Abba. It is a source of Qorashah and inspiration. Considering that the head is the most distinguished and most significant part of the human body, as Chazal say, the head is king over all the limbs. The influence of Qorashah that is transmitted to the whole person by a mitzvah done continuously with the head is immeasurable. Significantly, Chazal say that when a man wears tefillin, phylacteries, he has a special defense against the serious sin. Accordingly, a woman who lacks the outstanding mitzvah of kisui sa'arot, hair covering, because she does not fulfill its halach requirements, withholds from herself a vital source of spirituality and inspiration. And I want to make a comment right here too. I am unmarried at this present time. I thought I was, but this is where the latter part of this study I'm going to get into a lot that I learned that was truly a protection from Abba Father in my personal life. So you don't have to be married to wear this. You know, you can be married to Abba Father to want to wear this. You know, it's truly is a protection in the sense of, you know, guys, if you get tired, ladies, of men looking at you, you know, checking you out. I mean, of course the hair is very beautiful and attractive to a man. So, it's nice to kind of where, have like it's almost like a barrier of like, hey, I'm unavailable, guys, so it's also a good way to, when you are in an environment where you feel like you might meet your potential mate, then by all means, take it off. Just make sure you wear your tzitzit, so you still have that reminder for Abba Father's ways, his Torah. It protects from illness and pain. Who can assess the physical advantage in protecting the person from illness and pain that is gained from unceasing mitzvah, such as kusui sa'arot? Chazal have taught us that a person is protected while he fulfills a mitzvah, as they say, while a mitzvah is being carried out, it shields and safeguards the person. Hence, a mitzvah that is done over many hours of the day is highly prized source of protection. Similarly, the mezuzah, which is an ongoing mitzvah fulfilled at all times, is singled out by Chazal as a mitzvah which offers exceptional protection to people. I'm not sure what this mezuzah is talking about. Mezuzah I always thought was the, like menorah, but forgive me. I'm obviously not by birth a Ivri grafted in through Yahshua. So some of these terminologies I don't worry about too much. Another quick story I want to share with this. I like to go to the gym to work out and keep my health up. I need to for my business. And also, I do believe that it pleases Abba when we take care of our bodies. This is our temple. It's a gift from Him to us. So, with all this stuff going on, vaccines and shedding and whatnot, I do believe that that's a cause of why, they say they don't know why, women would get ovarian cysts, but that could be one of the reasons why all of a sudden, I started bleeding when I would go to the gym. And, I'm 35 and I've never in my entire life had a problem with that before. And when I started wearing the Mitpachat, I would wear the Mitpachat in, but of course I don't want to work out in something, it wouldn't make sense to work out in this. So I would put a beanie on. So I still would have the mitzvah of covering the hair. And I no longer bleed when I work out. So absolutely, it's a berekah from Abba, a protection of our health. It produces great dividends. The head covering enables a woman to fulfill the mitzvah of kusui sa'arot minute by minute throughout the day, thereby enabling her to earn great riches both in this world and the world to come. While a man adorns his head with tefillin for about an hour a day, a woman has the merit to adorn her head with an article of mitzvah throughout the length of the day. In fact, one of the great Rabbanim of our generation, I'm not going to bother to read his name, it's very complicated, once said that women are not obligated in the mitzvah of tefillin because they wear their tefillin throughout all hours of the day. They therefore do not require the added sanctification of tefillin as in the case of men. Since the head covering plays such an important role, it is only fitting that it displays the inner refinement and sensitivities of the Bat Yisrael, daughter of Israel. It should therefore be an article of clothing which adds luster and aristocracy aristocracy to the royal status of the Ivri woman who is a Bat Melachim, a princess. The difference between a married woman and an unmarried girl. The Torah allows a girl to appear in public with her hair uncovered, although it adds considerability to her chain, her beauty, and demonstrates her natural good looks, whilst the Torah considers it pritzut, licentiousness, for a married woman to do so. As mentioned previously, even the Umot HaOlam, the righteous non-Ivris, understood this and expected their wives to cover their hair in public. I never knew that. A married woman is an Ishet Ish. Well, maybe I guess you could say, like the Muslims and other, you just don't see it here in California that much. And this warrants that part of her beauty be withheld from the public eye. Although she should dress pleasantly and graciously in a manner which reflects her simcha, her joy, and nobility, she should not display her full natural chin to everyone to see. On the other hand, an unmarried girl need not mask part of her natural chin and may allow her hair to reflect her natural good looks, although not in a way that draws attention to herself. I love the ideas of modesty. An unmarried girl is not an ishet ish. See, from what I've learned from my Aramaic studies, it would say Isa, but Aramaic and Hebrew are different. A little bit. And there is therefore no need for her to cover her hair to withhold part of her chin from the public eye. Also, her good appearance can aid in finding her future partner in life. There is therefore a positive reason for her hair not to be covered and hidden. We live in a time when the importance and far-reaching effect of kusui sa'arot is little understood and is under threat, being presented by some as a matter of little significance. In truth, authentic Yiddishkeit, Jewishness, and the whole character of the Jewish home are dependent on women practicing all aspects of Sunnit properly. The saying of Chazal, "They are like mountains that hang on hair," is highly appropriate to our issue. It is most significant that the great Chassam Sofer Tzil and, there's that man's name again, the rabbi, who both succeeded in establishing healthy and vibrant centers of Yiddishkeit, were great campaigners for this mitzvah and installed a deep respect and reverence for it amongst their followers. The Navi says, "The crown of our head has fallen. Woe to us, for we have sinned." Due to our sins and lack of koreshah, the crown of our heads, the beautiful mitzvah of kusui sa'arot, head covering, has fallen. The crown is, however, not broken. It is up to us to pick it up and return it once again to its rightful place. With that, we will awaken once again within ourselves the deep-rooted feelings for real tznuit and koreshah of Yisrael. And just another quick note, I do believe Yashar El might be more proper. Sometimes Yisrael and Yashar El are interchangeable. And, once I got my copy of the Sefer, and I've been listening to POTV, Parable of the Vineyard, more, and Adam mentioned that he believes Yashar El is more accurate. So I'm going to be starting to work on saying that, because I do believe that is correct. When you think of what the book of Yashar means, the book of the upright, Yashar, upright El, upright Yahweh, his people are named after him, Yashar El. It makes sense. So that was just another little quick note. And to add to this part also, where it mentions the crown is, however, not broken, but it has fallen. I was reading in the Aramaic Targums in Shemoth, Exodus, chapter 32. I have to read this to you guys. This is incredible. It talks about the crown, and you'll see what it has to do with nakedness in Abba Father's eyes. And we know that nakedness is not like always referred to as the body being naked, but nakedness as in spiritually void, spiritually shameful, spiritually uncovered, spiritually unequipped, like spiritually dead. So here we go. Aramaic Targums. And these are the ones specifically translated. It says Targum Jonathan. I've noticed there's a lot of different Aramaic Targums, but Targum Jonathan is really insightful. It catches a lot of information that you don't get in the regular canon set of scriptures. But the people saw that Moshe delayed to come down from the mount, and the people gathered together unto Aharon, when they saw that the time had appointed to them had passed, and Satana had come and caused them to err, and perverted their hearts with pride. And they said to him, Arise, make us gods that shall go before us. For as for this Moshe, the man who brought us from the land of Mitzrayim, he may have been consumed in the mountain by the fire which flameth from before the Adon, and we know not what hath befallen him in his end. And Aharon said to them, Deliver the golden rings that are on the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me. And their wives denied themselves to give their ornaments to their husbands, and to all the people at once delivered up the golden rings which were in the ears, and brought them to Aharon. I want you to remember that part, because at the end of this, I'm going to recommend a video from Adam on POTV that is really important to take heed to, in terms of don't ever put your ish above Yahweh if he's asking you to break one of his Torot. And he took them from their hands and bound them in a wrapper, and wrought it with a tool, having made a molten calf, and he said, These, Yashar El, are thy gods, which brought thee forth from the land of Mitzrayim. For Aharon had seen her slain before him, and was afraid. That's why he did it. And he built an altar before him. And Aharon cried with doleful voice and said, I'm going to note right here, though, real quick before I forget to say this. Fear. It's just like the same thing as worry. Just like Alan Horvath always said. Worry is a separation from Yahweh by our own choice. Aharon chose to give in to Hashatan's fear that he was putting on him, and said, Let there be a feast before the Adon tomorrow, of the sacrifice of the slain, of these adversaries, who have denied their Adon, and have changed the glory of the Shekhinah of the Adon for this calf. Shekhinah, if you don't know, is like, you know, when the cloud came down from the Shamayim, it's like the presence of Yahweh. We know the Ruach HaKodesh is the presence of Yahweh. Shekhinah is like when it's heavy upon you, like to where you can see with ayin and feel it magnificently. It's a magnificent presence of Yahweh. And on the day following they arose and sacrificed burnt offerings, and the people sat around to eat and to drink, and rose up to disport themselves with strange service. No hanging out around the Christmas tree. And Aharon said to Moshe, Descend from the greatness of thine honor, for I have not given thee greatness except on account of Yashar-el. But now thy people whom thou did bring up from the land of Mitzrayim have corrupted their works. Quickly have they declined from the way which I taught them in Sinai, that ye shall not make yourselves an image or figure or any similitude, for now have they made to them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and sacrificed to it, and proclaimed before it, These are thy Elohim, small e. Yashar-el, which brought thee up from the land of Mitzrayim. And the Adon said to Moshe, The pride of this people is manifest before me, and behold, it is a people of hard neck. And now cease from thy prayer, and cry not for them before me, for I will let my anger burn like strong fire against them, and consume them, and I will make thee a great people. And Moshe was shaken with fear, and began to pray before the Adon his Elohim. And he said, Wherefore should thy wrath, O Adon, prevail against thy people whom thou didst bring up from the land of Mitzrayim, with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Mizri who are remaining say, It was for evil that he led them out to kill them among the mountains of Tabor, and Hermon, and Sirion, and Sinai, and to destroy them from the face of the earth? Turn from thy strong anger, and let there be relenting before thee over the evil that thou hast threatened to do unto your people. Remember Avraham and Yitzhak and Yashar-el, thy servants, whom thou didst swear in thy word, and didst say to them, I will multiply your children as the stars of the Shamayim, and all this land of which I have told you will I give to your sons, and they shall inherit forever. And there was relenting before the Adon over the evil which he had thought to do unto his people. Don't ever think your prayers can't have a powerful effect. And Moshe turned and went down from the mount, and the 2 tablets of the testimony were in his hands, inscribed on their 2 sides. Here and there were they inscribed. And the tablets were the work of the Adon, and the writing was the Adon's writing, inscribed and manifested upon the tablets. And Yehoshua heard the voice of the people, exulting with joy before the calf. And he said to Moshe, There is the voice of battle in the camp. But he said, It is not the voice of the strong, who are victorious in battle, nor the voice of the weak, who are overcome by their adversaries in the fight, but the voice of them who serve with strange service, and who make merriment before it, that I hear. And it was when Moshe came near the camp, and saw the calf, and the instruments of music in the hands of the wicked, who were dancing and bowing before it, and Satana among them dancing and leaping before the people. I have to make a note right here too. Anytime we are tempted with anything that we know is contradictory to the Torah, for me, this is going to be a great reminder that if I give in, Hashatan is going to be there dancing and joyous and like, hoo-hoo, I got her. I got a kink in the armor. Ha-ha, look at that, Yahweh. She's not as loyal to you as she vowed to be. Do we really want to do that? Is anything worth that? Yahweh willing, He guard us all from slipping like that. The wrath of Moshe was suddenly kindled, and he cast the tablets from his hands, and brake them at the foot of the mountain. The Kadosh writing that was on them, however, flew, and was carried away into the air of the Shamayim. And he cried, and said, Woe upon the people who heard at Sinai from the mouth of the Kadosh one! Thou shalt not make thyself an image, or figure, or any likeness, and yet, at the end of 40 days, make a useless molten calf? And he took the calf which they had made, and burned it in fire, and bruised it into a powder, and cast it upon the face of the water of the stream, and made the sons of Yashar'el drink. And whoever had given thereto any trinket of gold, the sign of it came forth upon his nostrils. I'm going to note right here too, I'm going to read out of Deuteronomy, about when, oh no, it's not in Deuteronomy, it's in Numbers, Bimidbar, when the jealous Ish would send his Isa to the Kohen, and she'd have to drink the bitter water. This is something that is done in the Torah to show, to reveal if you're guilty or not. And so, a lot of people out there like to, talk about drinking monoatomic gold and all that. Personally, I wouldn't, after reading this, after learning this, because, they were forced to drink that, commanded to drink that, on account of their error. That's just my personal opinion, though. You can, of course, do your own research on it. But I used to think that it was good to drink it, because they say it has all these benefits. And, a lot of people, like, into New Age stuff think that, it gives you, like, kind of like fortune-telling type, visions and whatnot. But personally, I now choose to refrain from it. And Moshe said unto Aharon, What did this people to thee, that thou hast brought upon them a great sin? And Aharon said, Let not my Adon's anger be strong. Thou knowest the people, that they are the children of the just, but evil concupiscence hath made them err. And they said to me, Make us, lowercase, Elohims, that may go before us. For this Moshe, the man who brought us up from the land of Mitzrayim, is consumed in the mountain by the flaming fire from before the Adon, and we know not what hath been done to him in his end. And I said to them, Whoever hath gold, let him deliver and give it to me. And I cast it into the fire, and Satana, whoops, I accidentally pushed it, now I lost my spot, there, entered into it, and there came out the similitude of this calf. They were unknowingly worshiping Hashatan. And to me, I too see that as a lot of the mainstream, Christianity goers that are not awoken yet to, the Moedim, Yahweh's appointments, and are still caught up in all of the pagan holidays. That's strange service. It's not service that Yahweh permitted, commanded, or allows. And Moshe saw that the people were naked. Here's the part. For they had been stripped by the hand of Aharon of the Qodesh crown which was upon their head, inscribed and beautified with the great and glorious Shem, Yahweh, and that their evil report would go forth from among the nations of the earth, and they would get to them an evil name unto their generations. This is Yahweh's clothing upon us, his crown upon us. We can earn crowns here on earth. And Moshe stood in the Sanhedrin gate of the camp, and said, Who feareth the Adon, let him come to me. And there gathered to him all the sons of Levi. I'm not going to continue reading because that was the main part that I wanted to, link to the covering, the hair covering of the mitzvah. Because I don't want to make this too lengthy. I've still got a lot more to go over. So the next one I mentioned I was going to read about the Torah of jealousy of the husband. Again, it's a confirmation that a woman is to cover her hair. Yes, this is a married woman, so yes, technically, it's for the married women. If you're unmarried, you don't have to wear it, but, I know that it is okay to wear it as a token to Yahweh of submission, even if we're unmarried ladies. Okay, so this is Bimidbar, Numbers, chapter 5. I'm going to read 11 through 31. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak with the sons of Yashar'el, and say to them, If the Isa of any Ish go astray, and commit wrongness against him, another man lie with her, and it be hidden from his Ish eyes, and be concealed, and she be contaminated, or if the testimony be not clear which is witnessed against her, and she be not convicted, or if the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his Isa, that she has been defiled, or the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his Isa, though she has not been defiled. And though that man may not have brought separation or tithe, there is a constraint upon him to bring his wife unto the Kohen. And I think I forgot to mention that this is also from the Aramaic Targums, translated by Jonathan. Now, because she may have brought delicacies to the adulterer, she ought to bring an appointed oblation of her own, 1/10 of 3 se'ah of barley flour, that being the food of beasts. He shall not pour oil, nor put frankincense thereon, for it is a Mikah, which means on account of jealousy, a mincha of the memorial which calls guilt to the mind. And the Kohen shall bring her near, and cause her to stand before Elohim. And the Kohen shall take Qodesh water from the laver with an ewer, and pour it into an earthen vessel, because she may have brought an adulterer sweet wine to drink in precious vases. And he shall take the dust that is upon the ground of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, because the end of all flesh is dust, and put it into the water. And the Kohen shall cause the woman to stand before Elohim, and bind a cord over her loins and upon her breast, because she should have bound her loins with a girdle. And he shall uncover the woman's head, because she had tied a fillet, a Mitpachat, upon her hair. And he shall put the mincha of memorial, the mincha of jealousy, into her hand. And I'm going to pause right here too and share that before I go any further. I was reading some information from some rabbis, and that part where it mentions that they bound her loins with a girdle. Some rabbis say that there's a tradition of that they would actually take off the woman's shirt as well as her head covering, because it's the same type of embarrassment for her head to be uncovered. I don't really personally believe that is of Yahweh. I don't see making a wrong upon a wrong. Yeshua taught us against that don't put evil upon evil. So this part about binding a cord over her loins and upon her breast, I mean, maybe it's better than making her naked before them, at least without a shirt. But all in the Masoretic text, and in the Targums, they both confirm that at least her head was uncovered, which I can absolutely see Yahweh putting in his Torah. While in the hand of the Kohen shall be the bitter water of trial. See, here's the water again, making them drink. And the Kohen shall adjure her by the adjuration of the great and glorious Shem, Yahweh, and shall say to the woman, if you have not turned aside to defile yourself by acting against the right of your Ish, be unhurt by this bitter water of trial. But if you have turned aside against the right of your Ish, and are defiled in having shared the bed with a man against your Ish's right, then shall the Kohen entreat the woman by the oath of the malediction, and say to the woman, the Adon make thee a curse and an execration among the children of thy people, in causing your thigh to corrupt, and your belly to swell. And may these waters of trial enter into your bowels, to cause your belly to swell, and your thigh to corrupt. And the woman shall answer and say, Amen. If I was polluted when betrothed, Amen. If I have been polluted since my marriage. I want to note right here too, the betrothal process should be looked upon as that we're already taken. So, just an engagement, let's say, you don't go whoring around when you're, even, in my opinion, even when you have someone in mind, that's when it's also appropriate to wear the Mitpachat. And the Kohen shall write these maledictions upon a parchment, and wash it out with the water of trial, and cause the woman to drink the bitter trial water. The trial water of malediction shall be received by her, but the Kohen shall first take from the woman's hand the Mincha of jealousy, and uplift the Mincha before Yahweh, and lay it on the side of the altar. And the Kohen shall take a handful of the portion for its memorial, and burn it at the altar, and after the woman shall drink the water. And when he has caused her to drink the water, it will be that if she has been defiled by adultery, and has acted with wrongness against her Ish, those proving waters will enter into her with a curse, and her belly will swell, and her thigh become corrupt, and the woman will be an execration among the children of Yashar'el. The adulterer as well will be detected by these waters of probation, in whatever place he may be. I love that this is in the Targums too, because that's not in the Masoretic. But if the woman has not been defiled by adultery and is innocent, they will enter without harm, and her brightness will shine forth, and she will find affection before her Ish, and become a mother of a son. It does mention, however, in the Masoretic that she will die if she is guilty. The swelling will cause her to die. This is the declaration of the Torah of jealousy, when a woman has fallen away from the right of her ish, and become defiled by adultery, or when the ruach of jealousy comes upon an ish, that he be so jealous of his Isa, as to make her stand before Yahweh, then shall the Kohen perform all this Torah. But if the man be innocent of transgressions, then let the woman bear her iniquity. Yahweh certainly knows how to expose secrets. All matters that are concealed shall eventually come in the open. And so this leads me to my next topic that I wanted to kind of slightly switch to, but it's not that much of a switch. This is still on the topic of modesty. I mentioned in my last video that last year I had been reading the book of Yovelim, and when I was listening to one of the POTV videos, it's funny how, sometimes when you read it yourself, you won't catch something, but then if you hear it, or vice versa, you will. And so this is chapter 7, verse 20. It says, "And in the 28th Yovel, Noach began to command his sons the laws and the commands, and all the right rulings that he knew. And he urged his sons to observe righteousness, and to cover the shame of their flesh, and to barak their Creator, and honor father and mother, and love their neighbor, and guard their beings from whoring and uncleanness and all wickedness." And I did some audio studies on shame and flesh, and that didn't really get me to where I wanted. Kind of what I got out of those audio studies was that, like, the shame of our flesh would be like our genitals. Parts of the body that is strictly for your mates, So, the reason why that popped out at me, and I kind of want to get you guys, if you can, share in the comments your thoughts. This is something that I've been kind of going back and forth on for an answer from Yahweh. And I do believe over time he will remove this desire from me, but in the meantime, I don't want to be doing something wrong that I still, ever since I was 18, I have enjoyed so much going to the beach and laying out in the sun and, getting a nice little tan, And when I was a Jehovah's Witness, they basically told me, don't do that. You're being a slut. And, the thing about covering the shame of our flesh, I thought, I don't want to be laying out. I mean, of course, it's not like I go and lay out with nothing on, but, still, showing that much skin, I mean, it even kind of made me feel uncomfortable, like, to wear shorts. And, sometimes I work in really hot environments, and, for my health, I feel like it's good to not let your skin breathe. So, I've been kind of batting all that back and forth. And a verse that Elohim brought to my mind, the next one I want to get to, is out of Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 47. It was specifically verse 2. It says, "Take the millstones and grind flour. Remove your veil." Here's another confirmation to wearing the Mitpachat, lift up the skirts, uncover the leg, uncover the thigh, pass through the rivers. And I thought, oh, uncover the leg and thigh. That sounds like the whole thing. So it's like it kind of brought me back to my JW days when we wouldn't wear anything above the knee. Like the knee was like the cutoff. So I wanted to dig a little deeper though. And that's what the Odiot study's on. But first, before we do the Odiot study, I also want to read it out of the Aramaic Targums, which I have on my other computer. Because it's interesting, in the Aramaic Targums, it doesn't even say anything about the leg or the thigh. I'll read verse 1 and 2 so you can get a little bit of context. Descend and sit in the dust, kingdom of the congregation of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne of glory, kingdom of the Chaldeans. For you shall no more be called tender and delicate. Receive this calamity and go into servitude. Put away the glory of your kingdom. Your princes are overthrown. The people of your armies are scattered. They have vanished away like waters of the river. Verse 3. Your nakedness shall be uncovered. Your shames shall be seen. I will take full vengeance on you, and I will change your judgment from the children of men. So out of the Aramaic Targums, it gives me a much clearer view of that. This isn't talking about physical nudity. This is talking about spiritual emptiness and void of connection with Yahweh. Obviously, the congregation of Babylon is the opposite of the congregation of Yahweh. I also wanted to read it out of the Sefer. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babel. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Qorin'tiyim. For you shall no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstone and grind the meal. Uncover your locks. There's that Mitpachat again. Make bare the leg. Uncover the thigh. Pass over the rivers. And, I know Elohim is dual also, like everything in his word can have dual meanings. So, this could apply to, yes, we should not show our legs as women, legs are very sensual to men. But then it's like, where do you draw the line of, you want to get out? Like when I go to the beach, I go on Shabbats usually. Because I know on Shabbat it's a really good time to get out and enjoy the beauty of creation and to praise Yahweh for his magnificence of, the beach is gorgeous. But then I've had that thought of, well, the Malachim are celebrating with us, and, my assigned Malachim, I don't want to offend him either, going and getting in a bikini, it's, doesn't feel Kodesh, and then yet I think, well, Yahweh wants us to be able to have the sun on our skin, that there's even that account of King David when, he took off his shirt and Michael was like jealous because he was running around without a shirt in front of all the maidens, and King David was like, should I be ashamed of this glorious body that Yahweh created? Of course, we shouldn't go around flaunting it on purpose like that. I do my best to be very modest when I go. You know, I don't like to stand up. I wait till I'm down and then just, you know, lay down and, of course, pick a spot in the beach where there's not very many people. Hopefully the most deserted spot I can find that's safe. And, you know, so I'm just sharing my thoughts with you guys, and I really would love some feedback on this because it is something that comes to me, and I've been unsure of if this is okay to do or not. But I will get to the audio study now about the thigh because I wanted to actually see what that word means. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to mention before I get into that, though, is, you know, when I did the audio study on the words, you know, the flesh, the shame of your flesh, it specifically, when I mentioned that it specifically talked about loin coverings, you know, like Adam and Hawa, it said they made loin coverings for themselves, you know, and they were before Yahweh. So, you know, I thought, well, if I'm wearing loin coverings before Yahweh on Shabbat, enjoying his sun on my skin, it's healthy, vitamin D, you know, but I don't want to be justifying either. So that's also something to take into account. And also, this book, The Order of the Ancients, I haven't had time to read all of it yet, but Adam reads out of it frequently on his channel. And out of chapter 66, when the Mitzrites were talking to Pharaoh about how beautiful Sarai was, this part jumped out at me because it says, how comely her feet, how well rounded her thighs. And I thought, wait a minute, if she was wearing long skirts all the time, how did they know her thighs were well rounded? So, just another point to throw out in our consideration on this matter. Okay, so the word thigh, I got it from H7785 out of the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. And in the parentheses, I wrote specifically what it said. It said the lower leg as a runner, hip, let, shoulder, thigh. So that doesn't really tell me much of what I wanted to know. So with the odiot, I'll hold it closer so you can see. Separation from going back to the beginning, and from pitching our tent with Elohim. Choosing being in the physical and pressing on that way can diminish our light. So, I'm sure you could see, you know, where I got all that from. Separation from going back to the beginning, from pitching our tent with Elohim, choosing being in the physical and pressing on the way can diminish our light. That's what I saw. If you want to pause it, take a moment to see what you see. So you can see how I've been doing a lot of going back and forth on this matter. And some verses that came to my mind when I had finished writing that, I'd like to share. This is Yehoshua chapter 24, verses 14 and 15. And now, revere Yahweh, Yareh Yahweh, serve him in perfection and in truth, and put away the mighty ones which your fathers served, beyond the river and in Mitzrayim, and serve Yahweh. And if it seems evil in your eyes to serve Yahweh, choose for yourself this day whom you are going to serve, whether the mighty ones which your fathers served that were beyond the river, or the mighty ones of the Amorites, in whose land you dwell. But I and my house, we serve Yahweh. So I kind of connected that with the part about our light diminishing in Mattithyahu, chapter 5, verses 14 and 16. You are the light of the world. It is impossible for a city to be hidden on a mountain. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it shines for all those in the house. Let your light so shine before men, so that they see your good works and praise your Father who is in the Shamayim. I thought, well, how am I going to, if somebody wants to talk to me on Shabbat, here I am laying on the beach. I almost get concerned that, is that me running to go do my own desire on Shabbat, like it talks about in the book of Yovelim? So the next verse that I kind of connected with this one about the light was out of 2 Qorin'tiyim, chapter 4, verses 3 through 4. And indeed, if our good news has been veiled, it has been veiled in those who are perishing, in whom the mighty ones of this age has blinded the minds of the unbelieving, so that the enlightening of the good news of the esteem of Mashiach, who is the likeness of Elohim, does not shine on them. So it could be Hashatan trying to trick in terms of thinking that this is okay, when I think about like going back to the beginning, I doubt they did that back in the beginning. Maybe this is something of modern day worldly, especially pressures to look a certain way, that the media, I don't even watch TV or movies or anything anymore. It's just, I feel like it's just so crudted up with Hashatan's goals, but that doesn't mean that I didn't used to at least flip through magazines, and you see all these women that always have a tan, and you almost feel like, you don't look good, and it doesn't, you look whatever, without a tan, and it's just, I can't wait for the new world, new Yerushalayim, but in the meantime, we need to be wise with what we do our time, spend our time doing, like I mentioned. Yes, I do read the word when I'm there, but like I said, you can tell how much I go back and forth, so please, your comments would be so much appreciated. And the last verse to this that I wanted to share was Devarim, chapter 30, verse 19. I have called the Shamayim and the earth as a witness today against you. I have put before you high and death, the berekah and the curse. Therefore you shall choose high, so that you live, both you and your seed. Yeah, so what are we going to choose? And, it makes me think of that other verse that I read in my last video about, that as a bird flies, so a curse without a cause does not come. I've been looking to see, like, am I having any problems show up when I go to the beach? And no, not that I can think of. I've been looking, since I am, not married yet. I, of course, I do take off my Mitpachat when I go, because, I do want to at least give some attention to, my hair. I like the sun on my hair, makes it a nice natural highlights. I don't like to spend time dyeing it, that does lead me into the next subject matter that I wanted to get into, because I keep mentioning how, I'm not married. If you've been following my videos, I always talked about my ish before, and the subject of common law marriage. I kept praying about that and praying about that because, it was really weighing on me, especially how I had mentioned that, I've heard so many people mention that, no, you do need some type of validity to the vows. Especially like when I heard Adam say that, he believes that what makes a marriage valid is a document. And I thought, a document? And then I thought, oh, well, there is a document of certificate of divorce. Why wouldn't there be a document of marriage? And, I had other people bring out to me that, even the publisher of the Sefer mentioned that there's a need for at least 2 or 3 witnesses. And I thought, well, Yahweh and Yeshua and the Ruach HaKodesh, those can be the 2 or 3 witnesses. But how do you get around the document of the certificate of marriage, divorce, and all that? There's nowhere specifically in the word that says a certificate of marriage, but when I was reading, first I'll share out of Mattithyahu, because that's the one that I was actually reading at the beach, enjoying the sun. It hit me so hard. Well, I won't read it, but I'll just sum it up. It was out of chapter 26 and 27, because I didn't bookmark it. The account when Yeshua was making the covenant with the Last Supper with his Talmudim, and he said, this is a sign of my covenant. Eat, drink. A sign of my covenant. It was public. There was a ceremony. There's many accounts of ceremonies in the Word. And then also in chapter 27, when Yeshua was delivered up to Pontius Pilate, Pilatus washed his hands publicly and said, I am not guilty of this man's blood. So I thought, oh, okay, there's a couple of reasons to go in the other direction, that, common law marriage is not scriptural. And again, in the book of Mattithyahu, which means hidden treasures, when I was reading out of Sira, I came across chapter 11, verses 18 through 20. And there is he who grows wealthy by his cunning and frugality, and this is the portion of his reward. For he says, I have found rest, and now shall eat continually of my goods. And yet he does not know what event shall come upon him, and that he must leave those to others and die. So it's like, okay, his wealth. If you're just with someone who you've gave private vows to, but there's nothing to solidify, like when they die, let's say you're living in their house and they haven't written you a will. Legally, unfortunately, there is legalities here, it might not be based on Torah, but let's say you're with that person all your life, and then you're left destitute with no means of support. What if you were a stay-at-home Isa? That could be a problem. And then the next verse, be steadfast in your agreement and be acquainted with it. You know, so these days, unfortunately, people are not as loyal to their word as they should be. Hopefully, if you're with a man of Yahweh, he would be. And the other verse that made me think of this was verse 20 out of chapter 15. It says, he has commanded no man to do wickedly, neither has he given any man permission to sin. And you know, that really reminds you that, you know, you gotta really make sure that what you're doing is not sinning. We don't ever want to trample on Yeshua's blood. And, you know, that also made me think of my last video too, you know, how I did the part 1 and part 2 of is, come now and let us reason together, says Yahweh. How I think it was part 1 specifically when I was talking about, you know, like, Chavarim chapter 24, verses 1 through 4, when he says, you know, and you cannot take her back if she's gone and been with another man. And I recommended that POTV video where Adam says in that 5 minutes that I suggested to watch, where he says, you know, is this just for Yahweh to take his Isa back, Yashar'el back? Nowhere in the Torah do we see the permission once you've gone to be another's. You know, and I had thought maybe that's why, because, you know, I hadn't shared this yet either with everybody, but on a personal note, you know, the man that I was with for 9 years, who was my ish, so I thought, the problems just would not stop, and I thought, you know, maybe this is why, you know, because yes, I was remarried after he left the first time, and when he came back the second time, we had so many problems. And I thought maybe that's why, you know, maybe it's because this is polluting the land. It's polluting my walk with Elohim. So, we don't have permission from Yahweh to sin. And that leads me to a video that I really, really, really want to recommend. This video, I didn't think anybody was ever going to be able to get me to change my mind. You know, because I was so convicted. All those years that I was with my ex, we weren't legally married, but I saw him with all of my being as my husband, my ish. And just recently, you know, he when I found out about this, a ketubah. I learned about this, and this is a video I wanted to recommend. It's called, oof, the glare is so bad. Maybe it's because I have a phone. Yeah, you can't even see that. I'm so sorry. Maybe far away. No, you can't even see it. I just put a cover on my phone because I dropped it and it broke. But, it's called Biblical Marriage, Milk and Meat Livestream from Kingdom in Context.
We're live.
It is
Welcome to
a year-old video. So, they broke down very good. I'm not going to, you know, share my notes because I don't want to make this video too lengthy. It's already kind of lengthy, but they gave so many good points as to why there is a need for a ketubah. And a ketubah is a marriage document where there are witnesses, preferably, you know, at least the parent. You know how in the Torah, you know, the father gives permission for his daughter to marry the man. So, you know, the parents shouldn't be excluded from the marriage. That's a part of honoring them, you know. So, and just like, you know, this ketubah is done prayerfully before Yahweh, you know. So, if your mate isn't willing to move forward with this, then it's not Yahweh's will for you to be together. Because like I mentioned earlier, if your mate is asking you to break any of Yahweh's Torot, who comes first? Yahweh or your mate? So this is where I also wanted to mention that video from Parable of the Vineyard. It's called Divorce, Remarriage, Submission, and Torah. It was actually done
fornicating husbands.
Just
let's go back to
6 days ago. This was an answer to prayers, let me tell you, for me, those two videos. So please watch those, because those will finally give the conclusion of all of my study. And I'm, you know, I even considered taking down my other videos, you know, about his common law marriage scriptural, but I feel I should leave them up, because, you know, I want people to be able to see the process, you know, because I know those are, I listed a lot of things that people use to truly feel like it's okay. And so I want people to see that here's all the research that you've probably done too, but here's some further research as a follow-up video as to why we should let that idea go and replace it with a ketubah. So I'm so glad I finally got to share that with you guys. It's been really on my heart, and I didn't want to sit on it for very long. I just learned about the ketubah maybe like 2 weeks ago, and then from, you know, that video with, well, I had heard of the ketubah before, but I always dismissed it as Jewish tradition. And I always thought, you know, well, Yeshua did away with the traditions of men. You know, we don't need to follow the traditions of men, you know, like all the rabbinical doctrines and stuff. But this is not a rabbinical doctrine. This is scripture. And one of the parts that I do want to bring out that the Kingdom in Context did a great job of highlighting is that in the book of Yovelim, it talks about that in the Shamayim, there are tablets that give instructions for marriage. So clearly, we're missing that document now, but that doesn't mean that it's void. So, the last couple of verses that I wanted to end with is about modesty. And it was really cool because... Oh, I'm sorry, 3 more. I almost forgot about this one. I should have read it earlier when we were talking about the Mitpachat. I'll just read it real quick. You'll see the connection. It is 1 Qorin'tiyim, chapter 11, verses 5 through 6. And every woman praying or navu with her hair uncovered brings shame to her head. For that is one and the same as if her head were shaved. And I wanted to bring this up because sometimes people use the verse down a little farther, 15, and if a woman has long hair, it is an esteem to her because the long hair has been given to her over against a veil. They use that as an excuse to not wear the Mitpachat. But why would Sha'ul have said her hair should be shaved if she's not covering her hair, if her hair was a covering? So I just wanted to make a quick note about that because, you know, a lot of times people use Sha'ul's words to twist to their own destruction, just like first Kepha mentions. I think it's in first Kepha. I know it's in Kepha, one of the two. Oh no. It's second Kepha, chapter 3, verse 16. 15 and 16. Our beloved brother Sha'ul wrote to you according to the wisdom given to him, as also in all letters, speaking to them concerning these, in which some are hard to understand, because that could seem contradictory, what I just read in 1 Qorin'tiyim. Unable to twist to their own, it says, hard to understand, which those who are untaught and unstable twist to their own destruction. And I see that as, you know how like it says in Tas'loniquim, where this strong spirit of delusion is given to those who, let me just read it, because I know like loosely quoting isn't good. Is it in first or second Tas'loniquim? Oh, second. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time finding it. Let me just see. That's one reason why it is so good to get these scriptures memorized, because the day when the internet goes out, we need to have them memorized. Second Thessalonians. That's why I wasn't looking in chapter 2. Chapter 2, verse 11. And for this reason, Elohim sends a working of delusion for them to believe the falsehood. So, I kind of really agree. Not kind of, I do, like 100% agree with a comment that Adam made on POTV about maybe some of the seeming contradictory verses from Sha'ul could be to test our hearts, to see how well do we know the scriptures, how much do we want to please Abba Father, to see what are we going to choose, what are we going to do with this information. Of course, there's nowhere that specifically says that, but I think it's extremely accurate speculation. Okay, so the last two that I wanted to read was out of Kepha. This is first Kepha, chapter 3, verses 3 through 4. Your world should not be outward, arranging the hair, wearing gold, or putting on dresses, but the hidden man of the heart, with the incorruptible ornament of a meek and peaceable spirit, which is of great value before Elohim. And, it was really interesting because that verse came to me right at the beginning of all this, when I was walking to the park one Shabbat, when the weather wasn't good to tan, and Yahweh dropped that in my mind. So something to consider too with my question to everybody about, my concern about laying out at the beach. And the last verse is chapter 2 out of 1 Timotiyos, verses 9 through 10. Likewise, that the women dress themselves becomingly, with decency and sensibleness, not with braided hair, or gold, or pearls, or costly garments, but with the good works, which is becoming for women, undertaking worship of Elohim. It's like that verse in, I think it's Micah 6:8, where it says to walk in modesty with your Elohim. Let me read that as the last verse. I used to use that one a lot as a JW to remind me to don't go back to your old ways. He has declared to you, O man, what is good, and what does Yahweh require of you, but to do right, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your Elohim. This version says humbly, some others say modestly. But, humbly and modesty, I guess, could be interchangeable. You have to be modest to be humble. You have to be humble to be modest. So I pray this video and study was a berekah to you, and I really, really would appreciate some comments on your thoughts, feedback with if I do have any more addictions that I gotta break. That's my last one. It's a process to become Kodosh before Yahweh, our Elohim. And I pray that also all of you are Baruch with the freedom of walking and holding only His hand and nothing else of Hashatan gripping at your heel. Shalom, Mitpachat.